Bezrat Hashem, part 2, and understanding how this generation is being compared by the Torah to a dog. Pnei hador k'pnei hakelev. So we ended yesterday by speaking about the famous idea of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. It's also said in the name of Elchanan Wasserman, that just like the dog, when it walks, it goes in the front. When a dog walks, the person's walking the dog, but the dog is walking in the front. So you think that the dog is leading, but if you look carefully, you realize the dog is always looking back to see where the master is going and following the direction of the master. So too, in the end of days, the leaders will be looking back to see what the constituency is saying to do, and they're just going to follow after that. As opposed to the real leaders, they lead truly with benevolence, with goodness, with grace, compassion, and they make decisions that will be good in a very big way, and not are they falling prey to just whatever's going to give me the most votes and whatever seems to be the hottest trend of the time. So I better start, changing my policies because that's what the people want. So I better start saying what they want. I think we're up to number 8. Yeah, that's correct. The next shot is from the Chafetz Chaim. You know this is going to be good when you have words of Torah from the Chafetz Chaim. The Chafetz Chaim says something which it shook me tremendously. Says the Chafetz Chaim, it's the way of a dog that when a person goes to give it a bit of a, let's say the dog is being very active, and the person takes a stick and hits the dog, he's going to be worried. The dog's going to hurt him, so he hits the dog with the stick. And then what happens immediately? The dog eats up the stick and then starts going at that stick. Just gobbles up the stick. Now, what would be the logical response? The logical response was, what'd you mess up with that stick? The stick is not the one that did that to you. It's the person that hit you with the stick. So go deal with the person that hit you with the stick. But the dog doesn't see it that way. He sees the stick. I'm going to have vendetta with this stick. This stick made a big problem in my life. I'm going to mess up this stick. And the dog goes and gobbles it up. So says the Chafetz Chaim, Pnei hador k'pnei hakelev. In the end of days, we are going to be acting like dogs. Well, obviously the Master is speaking about God. God is going to send us certain smacks to help us, to put us back in line, to guide us. But instead of us going to the one who is trying to guide us, we look at the stick, and therefore we start fighting the stick. He did that, and he did that, and it's his problem, and he did that. Blaming and name-calling. That just a stick. It's all from God. Ein od milvado, there's nothing but God. All of those things are just a stick. But you might say, didn't it have free will? Yeah, that's between them and God. But they could not have hurt you or done anything unless God decreed that it should happen. They're just a stick in God's hand, so to speak. And in the end of days, right now, you tell me if you think this is happening right now before us. We seem to be getting more and more angry at the stick. And instead of focusing on what are we doing wrong that needs a stick to hit us and put us back on track, we keep blaming the shaliach, the agents of God, the stick. Pnei hador k'pnei hakelev, the generation will be like the face of a dog. That we're just going to be hitting the stick instead of arousing ourselves to come back and do tshuva, to come back to Hashem and see what's really going on. Hashem is the one that's hitting us with the stick. It's not this one and this person and that people and none of it. Which means anytime something bad happens to you, you have to think, Hashem wanted me to be hit with this stick. Somebody pushes you in line. He pushes you and gets, excuse me? No, he's just a stick. God is the one that's making that happen for whatever reason that you had to have that happen. Oh, but didn't he choose that should happen? We already mentioned. His free will is going to be between him and God. He's going to have to deal with that. But there was a decree that you should be hit with that stick. And therefore, when things are hitting us, we've been hit a lot recently. The tragedies that we've been going through is horrible. We've been hit a lot. Don't put blaming and fingers. These things are from God. Does it mean that people have to be taken to trial, to court? Yes. But the message for us is that God is the one holding the stick. And don't be like a dog that bites the stick and forgets that somebody's holding the stick. Pnei hador, pnei hakelev. We're biting the stick, but we're not realizing that the stick was in someone's hand. Number 9. Ha'eshkol ha'sofer. Says the Eshkol ha'sofer. Similar to what we said before from Yisrael Salanta, but a little bit differently. A kelev goes in front of his master. Meaning he goes wherever his master goes. Even the master doesn't have to tell him, like, come spot, come, whatever you call your dog, whatever sweet name. Like, let's go. The dog just kind of follows along. I've seen many people with their dogs. The dog, they don't even, I've seen them going hiking and camping and they're like in the forest of the dog. The dogs are just, like, you don't have to tell them to come. They're with them, without even the command of the master, oftentimes. So says the Eshkol HaSofer, that we, in this generation, the leaders of the generation, are going to be following their masters, i.e. the constituency, even without the constituency telling them to do certain things that maybe they shouldn't be doing and engaging in. So to speak, that certain leaders, instead of them holding their ground as being people of stature and status, they don't sink down to certain levels. They'll follow along with whatever the crowd is doing, either to make themselves feel relatable to the people, to come down and be at their level, so to speak. But to be at their level can oftentimes mean doing immoral things. And they won't even need to be told to do those things. They're just going to go along with it, without even being told. Number 10, there's a Gemara that says that dogs, it's a Gemara in the Darn, in Chof Dal Lamed Aleph, and the Gemara is speaking about making a vow. The Gemara says, Loi kal ba'ana, de mishanina mino, v'loi mishaninas minai. Don't think that I'm like a dog, that I will take benefit from you, but I won't let you get anything from me. What does that mean? In the end of days, dogs are known, like we mentioned earlier, the Marsha, that they take for themselves and they don't want to share. All the dog people here have been nodding their heads quite a bit, like, yep, they just take and they take, and do they want to share, even if they have more than enough? No. Okay, they're a dog. Hashem programmed them that that's how they are. And as much as you try to change them and puppy train them, you throw a steak out there, they're not going to be sharing it with their other friends, as much as you train them. And I know someone's going to say, they're going to send us a YouTube video. I one time saw a dog, and it went viral, who took that steak, and they went over to the other poodle, and they gave it to them. So, there's a couple answers. One answer is, okay, 1 in a million is not a rule. There's always exceptions to the rule. Or it's just that wasn't a dog. It was in disguise. What you thought was a dog wasn't a dog. Either it was a dog and it's 1 in a million, and there's 999,000 other YouTube clips that'll be not sharing, or it's just not a dog. Because dogs have a certain selfishness in their nature that they hold to. And so too in the end of days, people are going to become very selfish. They're not going to want to share. They're going to want to take from everybody and not give of themselves. They're just going to be takers. How can I get the most from everything? Just taking and taking and taking, as opposed to the goal of being a Torah human being, is to be a giver. Giving and giving and giving, learning to be a giver. Who is the greatest giver in the world? Hashem. Does Hashem take? No. Who are the greatest takers in the world? Babies. Even animals. The animal kingdom is unique. When an animal is born, I'm not sure if you've seen this, the baby, a deer is born, a baby deer is born. Do you know what happens? A short while after they're born, they stand up and just, see you later. That was it? The whole weaning period? They're already out on their own, making something of themselves? Yeah. Human babies are the most vulnerable creatures on the world. They completely are takers from the time that they're born. So much so that I mentioned this before, but it's so cute, I just have to say it, that there was one time I saw a onesie, and the things you put babies into, like a onesie with the little 3 buttons on the bottom. So it was for a newborn, and it said, bald, unemployed, and still living at home. You like that one, right? Come on, it's so cute. I didn't get it, I should have got it. It's so cute. Because when you expect more of that kid, they're a taker. They're a complete taker. You go to your 2-year-old, you kind of you just start pulling your weight around here. And we've been moving in our house, so okay, some of the kids are trying to help out, but you don't expect it. They're kids, they're young. And that usually goes on for years, sometimes 18 years, sometimes 30 years, sometimes. They're still bald, unemployed, and living at home, and it's not a joke anymore. It's sad because they stay takers, and the purpose of life is to be a giver, someone who is like God, that he's giving and giving and giving. That's why it says a person who has Torah but doesn't teach it is cruel. To have Torah and you just keep it to yourself, Torah is meant to be given. You share the Torah. To teach it, to give it, to pay it forward, to be giving and giving. So in the end of days, it's going to be a generation like dogs. They just take and take and take and take, and they don't want to share. A few more things. We mentioned a little bit before. In our generation, there seems to be a phenomenon that people are having dogs but no children. And Hashem said that He wants children. Done in a holy, righteous way, but Hashem wants children. And the person has to make a real accounting of themselves. I know a number of people who were older, and they didn't understand this when they were younger, and now they feel bad about it. And we need to help them, and if there are ways for them to, even at that stage in life, to make a marriage and to have children would be a very nice thing, but we have to do it in the right way, in a healthy way, a responsible way. But for those around the world who are young, young and responsible and mature, a person should think to themselves, the purpose of life, the first mitzvah is to get married and have children and to bring the next generation into the world. That's part of being a giver. When you become a parent, you become the ultimate giver. The ultimate giver. You can't not be a giver. Your baby wakes up in the middle of the night. What are you going to say? Someone else deal with this. I got stuff to do. I'll work tomorrow. You can't say that. You have to work tomorrow and be up in the middle of the night, and you just have to do everything. You start becoming bigger and bigger because your kids need you, and you have to be there for them. So in our day and age, children are becoming more rare, and dogs are becoming more popular. It's a very popular thing. They're not quite a human being. They're almost, sort of, man's best friend, and we're opting out of having children, Hashem Yirachim, and having dogs instead. So in the end of days, this seems to be another sign. Pnei hador, pnei hakelef. Pnei means I'm poneh. Poneh means I turn towards. Pnei. I'm poneh to a kelef. I look towards kalavim. Pnei hador, what is the generation turning to? Dogs. Everything is dogs and poodle shows and boutique poodle hotels. And some of the guys are telling me about these shows with poodles and apps. What was it, a poodle app? Or the dog app, that you just become dogs. And even now, interesting, Pnei Hador, Pnei Hakelef. Nowadays they told me that they have these things on dating things, but there's not even humans, it's just animals. Like dating things.
By the animal or dog dating?
I think there's also dog dating. But they have certain things, and we should, stay away from Netflix. There's certain things where it's it's no longer people, but the heads are dogs and animals. And it's like normalizing to be dogs and people. It's like, can't we all just, get along? But I mean, not in the night, like back to stuff before the, Noah's Ark, like when things weren't going well in the world. I don't want to exactly speak things out directly, but not nice things happening. And in the story of King David and Goliath. Everyone knows the story of David and Goliath? So, nobody wanted to go fight that monstrous giant, Goliath, until finally who stepped up? King David. And he had a slingshot with stones, right? So Goliath says, what do you think, like you're like a dog? That you're throwing rocks at me? And the Sfar HaKadoshim say that Goliath really was, yes, part dog. That Orpah, where he comes from, she had relations with a dog, but there's definitely dog genes. That the Goliath dog, there's something in there. Whether that means metaphysically, or there's something even genetic there. There's some strange stuff happening with Goliath. And he's called a dog. Pnei Hador, Pnei HaKelev. And Goliath represents pure haughtiness. Everything against Torah values. And there you see the standoff, as we see in Samuel, the standoff between Goliath and David and Mashiach. This fight, in the end of days, is going to be the messianic figure King David fighting the dog man, Goliath. Dogs are interesting in that they also don't have any boundaries. They'll just eat and eat and eat and eat until they go and they're hospitalized. They'll make themselves sick. Like someone's telling me that they left the food out, the dog just destroyed it. And just somebody said, my dog, he looked like this. He just ate, he got literally, is that possible? They look fatter after they eat? Yeah. They literally just he ate so much and he just made himself sick. There's a line my father would always say that in our generation, by the way, we live on such a sad diet. Our diet is the saddest diet. It's a diet of depression. And by sad, it's also an acronym. Standard American diet. The sad diet. That we live on just garbage food. And what do you expect? You live on garbage food, you think you're going to feel great? You feel like garbage. So, my father always had a great line that we're overfed and undernourished. We're overfed and undernourished because the food is so demineralized. There's no nourishment in it. So we keep eating it, hoping to find some mineralization in it. I remember seeing guys growing up on the basketball team, the hockey team, they would go out and eat McDonald's and stuff like that. They could eat 50 hamburgers. They literally, okay, where does that go? How do you even do such a thing? And they're not full at the end. The answer is there's zero nutritional value there. Actual, real mineralization that they'll just eat and eat and they'll make themselves sick. Pnei Hador, Pnei HaKelev. That the generation is becoming the characteristics of a dog. That we consume. Look at us. We consume and consume. I don't just mean physical consumption of food. We consume things until we're sick. That a person could watch bad, just Netflix, for hours and just consuming, just imbibing stuff. And he gets up, he's like, oh, I don't feel good. I don't feel good about myself. I've been consuming just so much until I'm sick. He doesn't know how to say, ad kan, enough is enough. That's the way the dog is. It just eats and eats. It doesn't know how to stop consuming. It'll get sick and get worms and shimmy rock. Are we doing the same thing in our generation, just consuming? Until it's not good. It's not good. We have to know when to stay, enough is enough, and to stop ourselves. Very, very important. And now that brings us to Doge. So, the moon also has a face. The face of the moon. The face of the moon. That to put a dog on the moon, which means the face, we're going to see a dog. We call the moon the face of the moon. Pnei Hador, Pnei HaKelev, the face is going to be a dog looking at us, giving hope in the dog. That's the whole idea of currency, is giving hope in a concept, hope in an idea. That's why when someone like Elon Musk comes along and he makes one little tweet, some cryptic tweet about Doge, everyone gets all excited because he believes in this. And therefore we believe. And therefore it appears, and I'll let you make the decision yourself, that the powers of the dog are building tremendously right now in the world. But this is only going to happen until Mashiach comes. But part of the necessity, hear this well, the necessity before Mashiach is the dog has to be strong. Pnei Hador, Pnei HaKeleb. There has to be all the forces like we mentioned. That people are going to look like dogs in review. And all the reasons we went to. And they're not going to be embarrassed like dogs, and they're going to be doing things that are not according to their honor, and like just like dogs, they're going to sniff different places, and all of the power of the dog is increasing in the world right now. So the dog energy will go up, and then Mashiach will come. So should you invest? I allow you to put all the pieces together as the energy of the dog increases until Mashiach comes. And then it will be a different story, but we're in the time of the dog, so invest wisely, my friends. Everyone should have a wonderful day. We should be Zayich L'Mamish to Mashiach's kingdom here at the Yemenu. Amen. Shkoyach Chevra.